Welcome back. Coffee with the Johns, episode 9.
Whoop, whoop.
Okay.
Gotta get the sound effects in there, bro.
We got a lot going on today. We are actually on a time crunch. We're going to end at 9, so we have a lot to get in there. We're going to be talking about the volatility in the real estate market that's still all over the place. We're going to be still going over a lot of the, stimulus. Not much updates there. We're going to be talking about negative interest rates and things that have been going on with stock accounts and stuff like that with Robinhood and the 2,000 accounts getting hacked.
Whoops.
So, yeah. That's interesting. So my camera's upside down. So there we go. Fixed in the moment.
There we go. Everybody's turning your computers upside down.
Yes. There you go. Now you can see it.
There we go.
All right. But to start that off,
Well, hold on. We got a new office set up here.
Yeah.
Yeah. Hope you guys like that. It's not just a blue wall and nothing on the walls.
Yeah, we got a little more official, and we are getting a custom sign made by Can Opener Labs.
Mm-hmm.
So Drew's actually building a really cool prime vintage sign that we're going to have hopefully by next week. So I'm looking forward to your guys' feedback. Let us know if you like the current setup right now.
It's been all last Friday.
Yeah.
Hitting the wall, putting stuff on, listening to his critique.
Decorated by yours truly. We picked out all the finishing touches and everything, so hope you guys like it. That being said,
hit the like button. We got 10 people watching, only 3 likes.
Yeah.
Just hit it.
Share it. You know,
Share it.
the biggest thing is,
thing.
again, we're trying to spread this news with everybody, make sure everybody's investing in real estate and all the things that we do in the right way. So make sure you guys are sharing it and telling people about it, letting people come in, and make sure that you join the conversation, guys. We would love to hear your feedback. With that being said, I'm your host, Jonathan Barbera, and with me as always is co-host Mr. John Barr. Let's kind of get into this. So, did you watch the debate last night?
Oh, yeah. Oh, I can't turn down one of those. Like, I will say this one wasn't as reality TV-ish as the previous one.
Yeah, they did pretty good, both of them, in my opinion.
Yeah, I mean, it was pretty funny. Trump knew like he was Trump. He's like, you can see him like pointing like, okay, I'll shut up for now.
Yeah,
and I think they only cut his mic off one time or something like that. But it was a good debate. I mean, I think they both. It was actually an actual debate versus like 2 children yelling at each other. No, you did it. You stupid. So it was good in that format. As far as like substance and stuff goes, this is where I always find it funny when you're watching these things. Is like they say they promised the moon, but it's like the one person does not. It's not a dictatorship. They can't control everything. Yes, they have influence into how Congress goes and where the economy goes and where the country goes. But if they don't hold all 3 branches,
yeah,
you can't change anything. Just like he said that, asked why didn't you get it done in so many years? Like in the 8 years you're there, he goes, well, I didn't have Congress. I'm pretty sure the first 4 years you had all three of them. They didn't flip the House until 2012.
Well, so, I mean, even honestly, even beyond that, my issue was more they were both talking about nothing really, right? I mean, every time something was being asked, like, what are you going to do specifically on this? They didn't have an answer, you know, and it was a lot of posturing. It was a lot, you know, now Biden, I have the Biden health plan, so it's not Obamacare. It's going to be Biden care now. Yeah. So there's the ego trip there. Trump doesn't even have a health plan. I mean, his is just everything's going to be beautiful and better. But there's but that's where I'm going at is that there's no real substance. And I mean, I don't think we've ever really came out and said like who we support or anything like that. But I mean, it's kind of evident as far as we're business owners and we support businesses. So when you look at Biden's plan, I mean, the taxes are going to be insane. And one of the things I found funny is that Biden said, not in this one, but in the I don't know, some interview he did. He's like, "Oh, I'm gonna help minority entrepreneurs the most." Like, not with your tax plan. Like, when they realize they got to pay the taxes that you're putting out. I mean, unless you're giving them a minority tax incentive, that their tax bills are gonna be insane. As is everybody else's. So it's like you're not helping out any minority or any business owner with your tax plans, right? So I look at that, and yes, there are issues and stuff, but I look at overall, if the economy tanks, we're going to have much bigger issues than all the other crap, global warming, and not saying that it's crap, but like all the other stuff. I think with Biden's plan, like we have more of a risk of, it hurting the economy.
I just look at like what he's trying to do is like trying to fundamentally change every piece of the economy, from medicine to energy to how does the overall tax plans work. And it's like, dude, like you're saying you're going to phase out oil. It's like by far oil is still the cheapest production. And where Trump even said, he's like, okay, we can say the U.S. is carbon emission neutral. What are you going to do about China, Russia, India? I read an article on that. We're like, we are a very small portion of the overall world pollution. Yeah. That's like, yes, we can do our part to do a better job. But it's like, unless these other players play along, we're hurting our economy, making our economy less competitive because the cost to run that kind of stuff is astronomical compared to the fossil fuels that India, China, Russia, all these other developing countries are pumping out. So where it's like, that's the real question. I heard him say, like, yes, dig into that, and then they just jumped over real quick. I was like,
yeah.
Oh, come on. Well, we can't talk about real issues here. We got to talk about the fluffy ones that really don't matter.
One of the things that I found funny was, like, you look at all the things that they're trying to force forward pretty much, but this is the stuff, and, even Tommy Ray said people can immigrate outward to other countries for benefit of socialized medicine. Right. So people can leave for the stuff that they want, for more of that socialism and that, let's everybody take care of me kind of mentality. But then look at what's happening in California. As they're changing all these things, in the same way New York, people are getting the hell out of there. Yeah. And that's what they don't understand, is that entrepreneurs, business owners, all of these people, if you start hurting them, they will leave. They will figure out other places they need to go that's going to protect them. It's going to give them the tax advantages. It's going to make it more profitable, because at the end of the day, even though entrepreneurs are the ones that create the businesses and create the employment and everything, we're all still in it for a profit. Yeah. I mean, this isn't a charity case, right? Only Tesla is a charity case. But this isn't a charity case. We need profit. We need to make income. So if you're going to start hurting that, guess what? They're going to leave. They're going to go elsewhere. Now, what are you going to do? The government can't provide jobs. And that's the stuff that even from Trump's side, I was talking about it yesterday with my wife, and I was telling her, I was like, for a businessman, he hasn't made a lot of business savvy decisions. The way he handled the stimulus package and this whole thing hasn't been very business savvy. You understand? And that's very shocking to me from a businessman. But
he's got to play
politics.
Well, that's what we were talking about last night. Is like, I wonder what he's going to do if he wins the second term, to where he doesn't have to play so many politics. He doesn't have to pander to be like, I have to get reelected. To where, like, that's why I'm not a fan of the 2-term system. Is like, I'd rather just like a 1-6-year term where they focus on being a president the entire time, not 3 years of playing coy, and then the next year, that fourth year, trying to get reelected and run for an election bid and constantly pandering to everything, not doing what's right, but doing what's going to get you votes. That's why I'm not a big fan of how this whole system's set up, but it's what we got. So it was, overall, I think it was a good debate, but it was that. It just like, it's the stark difference between what type of economy each one wants to have. Where, Trump's is still much freer than what Biden's is. His is more based on high taxes and government support and government systems and things like that, and not so much, and eliminating competition in the free market. So where Tommy's alluded to several things in this, where the free market needs to compete. When government intervenes on too large a scale, it kills competition, and you will get people that will leave and move to other places. But I think that's what you kind of get when you get to these developed nations like the U.S. and Europe and UK and Asia, like some of these other places is these people they have other problems that a third world country doesn't have, or a developing nation have, where it's like, we're just trying to feed our people. We're trying to grow an economy, make money, not, healthcare is too high, housing prices are too high. It's like, we just want housing and healthcare. Like, we're not worried about prices right now. We just want them to actually join in.
Well, moving to the one article that we were talking about here is Let me switch. So I hope you guys can see that. Nope, you can't see that. Yeah, you can see that now. All right. So 2020 presidential election ballots cast so far. Woo. So I mean, it's been insane the turnout. Yeah. I've actually tried to go vote a few times, and the lines are insane. Doesn't matter what time I've shown up, but and you know, I just actually run a business, so I don't have the time to sit out there for 3 hours, however long they decide to sit. But it's been insane. People are actually showing up.
It's crazy. Like, you read some of these stats. This is a quote from the article. It's like, more than 45 million total ballots cast as of Thursday morning suggests a record turnout for this year race compared to the 5.9 million ballots that were cast at a similar time in 2016. You're almost looking at 10 times the number of votes that have voted already as compared to 2016. And it's not like no one voted in 2016. That was a record year for early voting as well. And then this year shattered it again by almost 10 times. This, with about 40% of the votes cast early, we're at 20% of the total 2016 votes before election day. And leading the way on that is several states have already reached more than 50% of their 2016 voter turnout in total. So we're saying after the election, after everybody voted, it was all over, how many people have already voted compared to that number? And in Texas, we're 65% of the way to the total 2016 elections, and we still have another 11 days to election, and we still have another 7 days of early voting. It's like, we're going to shatter those records of the people showing up. But it is no surprise to where you can't almost turn your head anywhere the last 2 months without seeing flash. Have you registered? Have you voted? I mean, Instagram. I even got on Credit Karma and it said, have you registered to vote? Like, on Yahoo, it's like, have you registered to vote? Like, everywhere you were going. Anywhere. Like, if you didn't register to vote, you really just didn't want to do it, because it was literally everywhere to get out there and do it.
Yeah. I mean, what's actually interesting, though, is seeing how we have a lot of people turning out. So it's going to be, why are they turning out, right? Like, that's, I think, what I'm curious about. Are they turning out because they're tired of Trump, or are they turning out because they're scared of Biden? Right.
I don't know.
So, because I honestly, I'm not sure it's an election of who are you for. I think it's an election of more of who are you against. Who do you hate the most? Who do you think is going to cause the most harm to you and the country and stuff like that? So I think it's more along those lines. Because, I mean, let's say what it is. Trump is not a likable person, right? Like, he's very obnoxious. He's very abrupt. And he's very demeaning to a lot of people. So he has a lot of bad quality that doesn't make him a likable person. But when you look at, stuff that's happened in the economy, stuff that he's done, it's kind of like, okay, yeah. You may not like the guy, but it is what it is also. And then you have Biden on the other hand, that's like, he's all for the people, right? He's about the people, trying to take care of them, take care of their colleges, their health care, and all this.
He's for what he thinks the people are.
Well, but that regardless, but what I'm saying is that he's given that message, right? So in that regard, he is more likable, right, than Trump.
Yeah.
But we are also risking the fact that, it's kind of like, you're more likable, but then your policies, in a business sense, from a business point of view, they don't make sense. You know what I mean? Like, all this free stuff, it doesn't work that way. Somebody's going to pay for it, which is always a taxpayer. So whether you're giving stuff for free here, you're still going to have to take it here 10 times more. And we see that. Mm-hmm. We see that with properties. We see that with taxes in other states. California is trying to tax everybody and anybody they can. New York, because they're hurting, right? And that the only way they can do it is by keep increasing, doubling taxes. I think it was
California came out and said they're going to do raise state income tax at 16.8%.
Yeah.
So we're now, if you combine federal and state income tax, you're paying over 50% of your every dollar if you're a wealthy individual, an entrepreneur, which is crazy. Like, if you're California, they say, it's the biggest state in the union, has the largest GDP in the state or in the union, to where it's just like if you tax everybody that freaking much, you have all these tech companies, you have all this stuff to where like they start making good life, and then all of a sudden they're like, man, 50%, 55 cents of every dollar I make over a certain amount is going to the state. And then you look at the state of how it's being run and governed in like the road systems and the housing and the homeless crisis. People are like, we're out. We got to go. Like not even doing it anymore. So there are people that are leaving and fleeing. But that's where I'm saying like there were Tommy initiated or said earlier to where if that happens on a national level, people are going to leave the nation. While it's a lot harder to do than just picking up and moving a few states over, but that's where on the competitive level, like people will eventually.
People are going to go to Canada.
I don't think it's going to be Canada. That'd be the last place I'd be going is Canada, somewhere in the Caribbean. That's right.
And John says that because he hates the cold. Not anything against Canada itself.
Yeah, I hate the snow. That's just me.
He gets cold very easily. But well, Tommy here also posted that he finds Trump more likable because he's an anti-politician. And that is, I think, one thing that he used very well yesterday is that he kept putting onto Biden that, well, you're a politician. You're a typical politician. I was like, that's a good strategy to use because a lot of people are tired of these politicians. I know I am. I mean, you look at all these people, and I think from the beginning, I've said it, that the Democrats made a terrible choice by picking Biden. I think they had much better options that I think could have wiped the floor with Trump. But they decided to go for the safe bet, just like they did with Hillary. And, you know, people don't want politicians. They want change, right? And they see with politicians, all you get is
I think they went
8 years of just nothing.
I think they went for the more neutral choice to see, like, hey, he's not as bad. He hasn't done a whole lot, but you talked last night, he kept talking about, and I think it was a good thing. He's like, you're talking about blue states, red state. I'm talking about the United States. He's trying to make a united front saying, hey, I'm trying to bring everybody together. It's not where Trump was like, these poorly run states and municipalities, these bailouts for those people, they're all Democratic led. And he's like, it's the blue states. And he's like, well, I'm not trying to do left or right, red or blue. He's like, I'm trying to make it a union. I want everybody to come together. So he did bring that in, but it's like
that's good.
The stuff he was proposing, it's like, no. That is not. It's like, yes, you're saying that, but the other word you're saying is not exactly that. You're saying like we're going to do socialized health care. Or he didn't use those terms. He said, well, we're going to have a public option. And then we're going to phase out oil. It's like, well, they're just eliminated Oklahoma, Texas, and Alaska or the Dakotas as like because their economies are heavily dependent on oil. So it's like, how are you not making this
and then his stance
state?
On fracking is still very like questionable. He hasn't really made up his mind on that, apparently. So it's things that, you know, for better or worse, it is what we depend on. It is what it brings up a lot of revenue. I mean, I think Texas is going to be a state that you either show up to vote or you might get hit with oil. I mean, or it could just be talk. Yeah. Like we know with a lot of politicians, they talk, they say all the good right stuff to get elected. And then when they get elected, they do, if any of it, right? And luckily, then this is a point that you always bring up, is that we do have checks and balances, that somebody cannot go up and unilaterally just make everything. You know, you do have Congress, you have the Senate, it needs to go through. So as long as I think we have like that balance,
one side where you see
you can't have one side that runs the whole thing.
Once the Republicans lost the House, like Congress became pretty much a gridlock on a lot of big things. Like right now, the stimulus package, to where even if the politics aside, it's like even if they wanted to get through, like, okay, we agree to the Democrats' $2.2 trillion or whatever. The Senate, the Republicans in the Senate have even said, like, we don't want to pass that. Like, we don't want to spend anywhere near $1 trillion, let alone $2 trillion. Because you look at parts of the economy, like Texas opened up. Like, I just did our market report that is, for those that are San Antonio listening, it's going to be going live next week. Yeah. But San Antonio dropped to 6.6. It dropped another like 1.3% from last month. So it's like our economy is open. Our cases are not spiking like everywhere else says they are because we opened first. Like we have opened up safely. Our economy is recovering well. And you look at our home prices, you look at our unemployment, and like I think we added like 55,000 jobs in the report. So that's fantastic news. It's like, why do we need another massive stimulus package and all these unemployment insurances and all this money for all this stuff when it's like It shows if you just open up the economy and let this thing kind of move through, just like Trump alluded to last night, 99.9% of young people and 99% of people recover from this thing. As like the cure cannot be worse than the cure cannot be worse than the cause? Is that what he said? Something like that.
Yeah.
But it's saying that the shutdown is like, we can't keep shutting this stuff down. And like you look at some like the states, we talked about it last week with what California did to Disney, and they're like, if you're not going to let us open up, we're laying everybody off. It's like, Florida's not having a problem. We're open down there. We're doing just fine. Like, why can't we do it in California? And then they always say, well, we're going to wait till after the elections to see what happens. Like, what does the elections have to do with anything about opening your economy up? So,
yeah. Well, I mean, that's politics for you. It's something that I do believe everybody needs to get out and vote. Vote what you feel. Be educated though, because I see a lot of people voting based on headline reading, right? But be educated. Actually, look at their policies. Look at what they stand for. I mean, chances are, and a lot of people are all betting on this, and I do believe that it has some merit to it, is that Biden is just the figurehead right now, and as soon as he goes up, something's going to happen. He's going to have to step down, and then you're going to have Kamala Harris as the president, right? It seems like that's what they're pushing for. And Kamala Harris, you got to understand her points of view. I mean, you got to see where she's coming from. She's a strong character. She's not a very silent VP. Like, she's going to be very vocal. I think she's going to be damn near another Dick Cheney, right? It was with Bush, where Bush was just the figurehead and Dick Cheney ran the whole thing.
Yeah.
I think it's going to be the same thing with Biden. And so you got to pay attention to those things. It's like, is her policies the ones that you want?
Yep.
You know, and just be educated when you get out there and vote. But still, get out there and vote. That being said, let's actually get into some fun stuff. We're going to be talking about the real estate market that is all over the place. So as you can see in this article, September existing home sales jumped 9.4%, but prices are rising too fast. And that is something that we are seeing ourselves, right? Mm-hmm. We're seeing it in the market, and not this weekend, but not this Sunday coming up, but the following Sunday. Make sure you subscribe, because that's when we're going to be putting out the newsletter, and you are already pulling some data that we're like, holy crap.
Yeah, you asked last week, you asked my opinion, do you think the winter months are we going to see a traditional slowdown like we always had been? And I was like, I don't know. And I'll tell you right now, it was nowhere near a slowdown. Like a double-digit sales increase, double-digit median sales price increase for the third month in a row. Like, it's crazy where this stuff's going.
Even here, they're talking about, it's your months of inventory.
2.7 nationally months of
That's
inventory.
insane.
Where your balance market is 6 months, to where if we stopped listing homes and the same rate of sales kept going, in 2.7 months, every single house in the United States would be sold. That's an insane number, to where I think a year ago we were, 3.5, 4s nationally. And I've been watching a lot of YouTube videos about, they're saying like, what's driving this market or why we have this stuff. And they're like, well, it's because nobody's listing their homes. I'm like, I'm sorry. We don't have 4 months in a row or 3 months in a row of record-breaking sales without people putting record-breaking houses on the market.
Right.
Like, yes, they may be down slightly, but when you're talking a year ago, we're normally selling 2,500 to 3,000. We're selling over 4,000 houses a month. It's like, and that's happened for multiple months. That's not the case.
But sellers are getting back out in the market. We are seeing that.
We're seeing these prices. They're like, man, again, that's where they say that is a recession coming, or is a bunch of stock going to hit the market? Like, I don't know, because I think people realize, especially if they experienced 2008, they knew what happened. They're like, man, I may be on forbearance now, but I have equity. The market's on fire right now. I think I might be able to sell and get out from underneath this thing before anything goes bad.
Well, and kind of on that, we have this next article that mortgage demand from homebuyers falls for the fourth straight week.
Well,
so you're having, purchase demand is down 7%. So you're having sellers come into the market more, but now buyers are starting to fade out a little bit because prices are getting too high.
Right, with that article, they said, like, yes, September existing home sales jumped 9.5%, but prices are rising too fast. And this just perfectly alludes to it. It's like, prices are going through the roof at a very rapid rate, to where, we're well above our here in San Antonio, our median sales average from last year, like we're way over that, to where it's no surprise to see that, hey, and it's also combined that we're heading into the wintertime. And that's a seasonally adjusted kind of thing to where mortgage demand falls because the buyer demand falls. Right. But in September, it was through the roof here in San Antonio, but this is on a national level. So we're still a warm state. Some of these colder states, that's what kind of drives people into not wanting to get out and move houses. Because I don't know about you, but I don't want to be moving my house in the middle of a snowstorm. But they say the average contract interest rate for a 30-year fixed mortgage increased to 3.02 from 3%, to where if you go back a month ago, I think we're sitting in the 2.8 ranges. So interest rates are rising because demand is falling. So that could be quote unquote good for people wanting to buy homes because now that supply and demand is going to start coming back into equilibrium a little bit. But it is a very concerning thing when prices are flying through, going that high that fast.
Yeah, I mean, and we've seen it ourselves. We posted a video, so we'll put a link on it after the live, or just go onto our channel and you can check it out. But it's a video that we made nearly 40 grand in less than a week. And even when we sold the property, like, we saw this in the market. You know, we saw this coming. We saw where the buyers are. We saw where the demand is. That's why we were able to do it. And we did very little work to the house, right? Because we saw this. We saw how people are just hungry for houses and the loans and all this. And
there was just no inventory, no choice. It's like, hey, I just need to find something. And that's exactly what happened. Is like, it was a scenario. It was a clean house. All the structural components, we put a new roof on it. AC was good. Foundation, electrical, plumbing, checked all that stuff. But it just needs some updating. But
one of the biggest things that we both spoke about was we are not making this the rule. Because to us, this is an exception. Because we pay attention to the market and because we're looking at it, we're able to jump on it and use it correctly. But that being said, we looked at it. We're like, this is insane. Like, we don't agree with it, right? But we're like, this does not make any sense. And especially when we know San Antonio. We know the San Antonio market. We know, what income is, what the jobs are. And these prices going up as much as they are, it's not very sustainable, and not at this pace. And then the houses that they're buying, this house, I mean, normally we would have updated the cabinets, we would have updated the flooring, the bathrooms, the interior. We would have done more updates.
Everything, yeah.
We didn't do any of that, and it's still sold within the day. I mean, you listed it Friday morning, Friday afternoon, we were under contract, full price, everything. I mean, that's nuts.
Oh, and it wasn't that. Like, I was leaving town for the weekend. It's like, I want to get this taken care of. I got a buyer that's very eager, seemed very motivated. Talked to the agent. They knew what they were going into, what they were getting into, and we accepted the offer. But by Sunday, we had 2 more backup offers ready to go.
Yeah.
And then we had a third one come in that would have still profited from the deal. Just like, my God. Yeah. We had 4 offers within 3 days on this house that still needed to be updated. But I mean, everything worked. The house was built in the 80s and nothing had been updated since the 80s.
So make sure, guys, you definitely check that out, because that video, we gave some really good tips. There was hidden square footage in that house that even the wholesaler didn't know. That's something that even as wholesalers, it helps you to increase your fee and all that by understanding the true value of a house, the true potential of a house. So we give a lot of good tips on that video. So the link is going to be below, or just you can go, not right now, after the live is over, go check out that video. But a lot of good information. But, moving on, we have this next article where in areas of high risk for wildfires, relative affordability lures homeowners. So pretty much they are lowering, houses are cheaper in areas of wildfire. I mean, to me, this is common sense, right? Like, why wouldn't it be cheaper? You have a bigger chance that you're going to lose your property. So, the value should be lower, but not a drastic amount. But the thing is, where most of these houses are at risk of wildfire, you're talking about Colorado, California, and houses there, your medium house, you're looking at $600,000 plus. So now you're looking at a difference of $20,000 from a house that's at risk of being in the range of a wildfire versus a house that isn't.
Well, I know it does. It is the insurance prices.
Right.
Because we have a friend that lives in the hills of Colorado, or the mountains, hills, whatever, the foothills of the Rocky Mountains. That's what I was looking for. And they were looking for insurance. He's like, it was insane trying to find insurance because it's like your options are very limited because I know the risk is huge.
Yeah.
And like if something does burn down, like it is a very expensive to build in the mountains of anywhere. To where I think that's a lot of where these places are at high risk. It is in like areas that are more desirable. So that's why you do have higher price and stuff. Because if you're in the mountains somewhere, it's like it costs a lot to build out there. So if you're going to build out there, you do need to have some sort of substantial income to be able to afford that house.
So you can get a discount on a house in the mountains. Just make sure you get a really good sprinkler system that surrounds your property.
Lots of water, tap straight to the mountain into the water. Just
go near a lake or somewhere like that. But these are things that are still affecting because even I was reading that San Francisco is another place. They have areas there. So it does affect, especially when you have a state like California where people are leaving by large amounts of people. Now you have those prices being affected, more houses being affected.
Yeah.
So it's like, man.
Well, talking about the giant sprinkler system, I was in San Diego a few years ago, and I have a friend that lives there, and he was renting a house inside this gated neighborhood that was it was a really cool neighborhood, like had a big mountain hill, and the whole neighborhood was the entire hill. Mm-hmm. And a lot of really nice houses and stuff like that, and it was gated all the way around. But what it was, like, you came in the gate, and I was like, yeah, what's the rent live here? So I'm like $4,000 for this house. It was ridiculous. He's like, but the HOA was like $1,000 or $1,200 a month. And he says, yeah, but the entire hill has its own sprinkler system to where if a fire comes up, like apparently there's just giant sprinklers everywhere in this complex that will just start dousing the entire hill in water. And I was like,
that's insane.
Oh my God. Like that is absolutely insane. I was like, the pump you would have to
Where are they getting the water from?
God, I have no idea. Like I doubt it was from like the hooked up to the city water or something like that.
Insane.
I don't know if they had a big reserve tank on top to try to like just douse everything down or what it was. But yeah, they had the engineering and the capability to.
Molly, that we know loves her California for whatever reason, says maybe they wouldn't have wildfires if they changed the laws and clean up the dang forest. California, I'm talking to you. So disappointed. And I mean, yeah, I guess it's but all of this stuff, like I said, still affects home prices. And this other article, you have this one was interesting. I did enjoy this article. In a bid for stability, the FHFA extends forbearance policies.
Oh, you got it.
I've been practicing. It's a freaking tongue twister for me.
I can actually picture you in front of the mirror. FHFA, FHFA, FHFA.
It's that second F that always gets me. But pretty much what they came out with, very interesting, is they're extending the time frame that you can file for forbearance, and they're extending it through December 31st. That means that up until December 31st, you can file for forbearance. That's going to give you 6 months. And then at the end of the 6 months, you can file for an extension. So essentially, you can file for forbearance at the end of December and not have to make a payment all the way through the end of 2021.
Basically, your payment would be due in December or January 1st,
right.
2020.
So, like we talked in previous episode about the amount of people that are actually delinquent, right? Even Texas, that we had such high delinquencies because people were scared and unsure of what forbearance meant. A lot of people felt that forbearance meant that you take it, and now at the end of 4 months, 6 months, you got to make one lump sum payment. And to their credit, I mean, it was all over the damn place as far as what the hell was going to happen with forbearance. And I still think it is, even though you and I both talked about, they're always going to come out and protect the homeowner in the housing market because they can't have that many foreclosures in the market. If they couldn't make their payments then, and now all of a sudden they got to make 6 months or a year worth of payments of one, they won't be able to. So obviously something's going to happen. Obviously something's going to change. But this is very interesting for real estate investors, right? Because as this happens, you're delaying foreclosures. You're delaying all these things that are going on in the market. and you're delaying the market from correcting itself as it needs to. So you're keeping people in houses that they can no longer afford.
Yeah.
Job markets are changing drastically, right? I mean, there's people that we don't know when they're going to get back, going back to being employed. Pilots, like we talked about, event coordinators, event planners, restaurants. How many restaurants, even bars in San Antonio, the bar owners were saying, oh, we can open up, but it has to be at 50%. It's like we've been losing over the past 6 months so much capital, and so much opportunity, and now you're still making us open with pretty much both hands tied behind our backs, because at 50% we still can't make the revenue that we need. Yeah. Restaurants and bars, most of them are at a very marginal profit basis.
Yeah. Those margins are small.
Exactly. So you have all these people that are pretty much out of business, employees out of work, everybody hitting the labor market, and yet you're extending this. And now I'm not saying you shouldn't be given forbearance. It's just keep it in mind as investors, what is this market going to look like in 2021? Are we expecting a crash? And it's kind of hard to see if we're going to get a crash, because one, it's going to definitely depend on who gets elected, I think. And then two, it's going to matter as far as if we keep doing this and holding off foreclosures and all this. It's like,
well, I think it's also like you see different portions of the country like opening up, and you see the other ones shutting down. Mm-hmm. So we're like, we are a national economy. We all do depend on each other. The same banks are lending to the same people in both places, to where here in Texas we might be booming along, moving right along, but if you have other areas of the country foreclosing and still shutting down, letting that money bleed from the economy, you're gonna have problems. But I mean, I think after the election, that's when it's like moves now need to be made, because the elections are over. We know which direction things are going. And now it's like, okay, now we need to deal with these problems we've been postponing till after the elections. I don't know why you're waiting to help the people, but I don't know.
Molly puts in here, by opening up, we're saying that it's safe to come out and enjoy. By not opening, we're saying be afraid. And I get where you're coming from, but the issue that I always look at is not so much open up, but it's the people, right? People are still scared. People across the board are, even if you open up, there are a lot of people, and I'm talking about not what the media puts out. I'm talking about people that we speak to on a regular basis. They're like, no, even the bar's opening up, I'm not going to go. Even the restaurants opening up, I'm probably not going to go. They're scared. They're still scared. Yeah. And then they said, what was it? 40% of the population said they might take the vaccine if they can't, when they come out with one. So people are even scared of the vaccine. So they're scared to go out. They're scared of the vaccine. They're scared to travel. You have too much fear still in the market, I think. And all this fear, I 1,000% blame it on the media. And these politicians have used this as a political ploy to push their agendas, because all this fear has made people, more paralyzed, more paranoid about going places and doing things. So I don't know, even when Texas opens up, even though we have seen more of a gridlock when we're driving now, which is annoying, kind of miss the good old days of
I could get it at 5:30. I could hit 410, and I could not touch all the way to like New Braunfels. I could not touch the brake the entire way.
Awesome. 3 or 4 in the afternoon, just going across wherever San Antonio in like 20 minutes. Yeah, it was beautiful. But yeah, I mean that was beautiful in a very sad way. It's kind of like saying, I love the apocalypse because I can get across town quicker. But it's like, you served the apocalypse though.
This isn't worth it. It's like, it's a great cure, but that what it's causing is not good. Not good at all.
And then Molly adds, that's because they aren't educating themselves. And I completely agree. And we go back to the same thing that we've said before. If you are a headline reader, you're going to struggle. If you're a headline reader, you don't look at the facts. Which the facts are being changed at all times by, the CDC and the doctors. Wear a mask. Don't wear a mask.
Shut down. Don't shut down.
It's airborne. It's not airborne. It's this. Yeah. It's not that. It's like, now, what was it? Was it the CDC that came out that's saying the shutdowns is actually more harmful? And it's like,
it should be used as an absolute last resort. And I was like, yeah, duh. Because the repercussions from shutting down, you have poverty. You're like, we've now doubled the world's poverty in 6 months. It's like, Yeah, because people can't go work. That's who this is affecting. It's not necessarily your white collar workers because they've been able to work from home.
Yeah.
It's the people that the bar owners, support staffs, things that depend on these events that like those are the ones that are getting hurt the most because they're on an hourly wage and they work with their hands. Yeah. They don't work with their minds. Like you can sit behind a computer and still produce value to somebody. So it's a real problem. So. And I do agree. It's like you really need to educate yourself on stuff. And I just look at just the pure numbers of just like, well, Texas has really been open since July. We had to shut a few things down. But, yes, we had a spike. But it's really come down to where now we've had a couple of days in San Antonio where it's only in like double digits versus like 86 new cases versus 750 like it was before in one day. To where like, that's a pretty good number. Things are improving pretty well.
Well, so, even Ian Bertini, he you got to put a profile picture, man. Come on, stay with the times, bud. But even Ian, he says, you gotta. That's why you gotta listen and read from everywhere so you can make up your own mind. It could not have been said better. I mean, that's precisely it. We have friends that are hardcore. Fox viewers, and if you're listening, you know who you are, sir. And then we have friends that are hardcore CNN viewers, right? And then it's like the problem with that is that you always are only going to see one side. You understand? And that one side is always going to push whatever agenda makes the most sense to them.
Yeah.
You understand? And what makes the most sense to ratings, regardless of what makes the most sense to you. So you're the one that needs to choose what you're consuming. What information is actually going to help you? It's actually going to take you, help you make the best educated decision as far as it comes to voting, as far as it comes to, running your life, running your business, all of these things. You got to get educated. And I think we're severely lacking in that. And
Ian just said, and very few are dying. I mean, that's one thing about the debate last night. Like, oh, look at the cases spiking. Yeah, but the death rate, and like Trump even said, our death rate is a fraction of what it is in other places around the world. Yes, people are getting sick, but you recover. Like, it's just like the flu. It's like you catch the flu, and that's where I think a lot of this is going to come down to. Like, we are going to live with COVID-19 for the rest of our lives in eternity. It's never going to be eradicated. There's going to be a vaccine come from it, but there's people that aren't going to get it, and it's going to spread just kind of like the flu. You're going to feel like crap because people die from the flu too. It turns into pneumonia. It's like, but we have therapeutics that treat those diseases and those sicknesses when somebody goes to the hospital because they just approved I can't remember the name of it, but it's one of the ones that Trump took for a therapeutic. It's like, I'm not even going to make an attempt at it. Started with an R. I do know that. But it was another therapeutic that was approved. So we're learning how to treat this thing when somebody does get sick. Yeah. So no, you got to educate yourself on it.
You really do. But going back to kind of the whole real estate thing, I was reading an article because you have the eviction moratorium. They picked these words, man.
FHFA moratorium. FHA moratorium.
Yeah. I practice. I'm not going to say it again, but I practice. And, stop evictions. But yet evictions have still been going on. And the states that we're leading are obviously Texas, Florida, all the states where you have the most investors and more institutional type of investment firms and, multi-family owners and all that are the ones that are leading the way. And it's because what's actually interesting, even though they did the moratorium, the CDC did it, you as a tenant need to file pretty much a document that they have on their website. You can get it anywhere, saying why you cannot pay rent.
Yeah.
If you don't do that, you can still be evicted. You are not protected. And I thought, it sucks for tenants that are actually struggling. But for those that are taking advantage of the system, I think this is a great protection for landlords. Yeah. Because if you cannot prove that you have been affected by the virus, which I think, I think it's pretty hard to not be able to prove it.
That's what I said. What I was reading, it's like if somebody actually makes an attempt at filling it out, it's going to be pretty easy to not get evicted. Because they say, like, you have to prove that you're affected. It's easy to do. That you can't pay, pretty easy to do. But a lot of people are just saying, we have a friend that they had a tenant that's just like, I'm just not going to pay rent. Because you can pay rent. You're still employed. Yeah, I'm still just not going to pay it. Because when they first came out with this stuff, that was how it was. You could just say you couldn't evict anybody. Like, just plain across the board. But then they realized, like, okay, that's not good either, because you have bad actors that are just trying to game the system.
Yeah.
To where, they have to fill out this form. It's an affidavit that's saying you're not able to afford it, but then you have tenant, then you have to file that, but then you actually have to show up to your court date. To where I read, like, people just weren't plain showing up. Like, they're like, well, you can't evict me, so I'm going to ignore all these notices, the court saying I have to show up, and they just don't show up, and the judge is like, well, they're not even here to plead the case, so apparently they don't care that much. Just you're out.
Exactly. And that is something that just tenants are not aware of. They're not aware that this needs to be done. They need to file this way. Landlords are more educated. So we go back to the same thing. You gotta educate yourself.
Yeah.
You can't just depend on saying, "Oh, the government promised," right? Or the government's gonna take care of me. It's like, no, you still gotta go out there and educate yourself, understand the rules, understand the laws, and protect yourself and your family. Now, you still can't be a scumbag, and we had an investor friend that's telling us of how one of their tenants is trying to scam the system by doing all this, right? So you shouldn't be a scumbag, and I think you should get punished for doing that, because as landlords, we get hurt by you doing that. You understand? Our credit gets hurt, our investments get hurt, everything gets hurt, and then you are hurting our families too. So it's like, it's not about you. It's not just because you're a landlord means that you're rich and you can do it. Most people are not good landlords. Most people don't have reserves. Most people don't have savings. They don't know how to manage a property correctly. Yeah. So you not paying your mortgage for 1 month can hurt a lot of landlords. So this is, I think, good to protect them and for you to show and not be such a scumbag and take advantage of the system.
Yep.
With that being said, we did have an article here that if you wanted to take over that one, from negative interest rates.
Yeah, it was very interesting to where, I'd like to have a discussion on it or something of like what that's going to look like. 'Cause we've all heard about negative interest rates of the overnight Federal Reserve policies that are happening in I think it's Japan, Europe is that way. And what that really does. And I know our Federal Reserve, the U.S. Federal Reserve, has said we're never going negative interest, nowhere close to doing that. But I just saw an article that just kind of came out that just said the UK is reaching out to their banks. The UK, what is it? The Bank of England. There we go. The Bank of England's coming out and reaching out to their commercial banks and asking, hey, are you guys prepared for negative interest rates? Not that they're doing it, because they're still at 0.1%, but they're just saying 0.1%, still positive. Are you prepared to go negative interest rates? To where it's just like, man, now the UK's fallen negative interest rates to where they say in the Federal Reserve, we're never going interest rates. Like, I don't think you should ever use the word never in any kind of.
Well, and you also have the ECB has been negative interest rates for I don't know how long. Bank of Japan's been in negative interest rates for I don't even know how long. There are, areas, countries that have done negative interest rates already. And I think the U.S., we've had short-term treasuries be at negative interest rates, because when you're that low, it's like the short-term loans sometimes are negative interest rates.
Well, and that's just it. What does that do and what their fear is? It's like basically what that means for anybody that doesn't understand. It's like banks used to pay an interest rate to leave your money there. If you notice, you might get a little, if you have an RBFCU bank account every month, you might get a dividend payment of 10 cents, 20 cents, $3. That's the bank paying you to keep the money there. But if this goes the other way, a negative rate, and that's why they were asking if the commercial banks were ready to do this, because if they aren't ready to do it, they have to pass that cost on somewhere. It means that the bank is now their Federal Reserve, their reserve banking system is charging them to keep money at their bank. Mm-hmm. And now they might pass that along to consumers, to where consumers, you put $100 in the bank, at the end of the year, you might only have $99 left. To where the bank is taking money from you to store money at their bank. And what they're worried about that is people say, well, because they're trying to enforce you to go out and spend it. It's like, well, if you put it in the bank.
Not so much spend it, but borrow it. Because their purpose with all this is, yes, they're paying, you're paying them to keep your money in the bank, but then they're paying you to borrow money.
Well, that's where I don't think it's going to get that.
Well, that's supposedly the point of it. The point of it is that they want you to borrow, right? They want to lower interest rates so much that it's stupid for you not to borrow, to put more capital in the market, to create more jobs, create more investments, all this, right? That's theoretically the rule. But then when you have somebody come in with ridiculous tax plans and all this, it's like, well, okay, you're giving me cheap money, but now you're taking it from over here. So if we go back to the same thing, it's like, you got to think of the whole system.
It's like you're building a house of cards right here. It's like, let's just stack all this stuff up and keep going up.
Yeah.
But you have the other side of that to where they're worried is like money's going to go into hiding. That people say like, well, I don't want to borrow money cheaper anymore. Like I don't have any use for it. I'm financially savvy and I'm not going to put it in the bank because I get charged to do that. So I'm just going to keep my money in a nice large safe in the back of my closet.
Yeah.
And then money gets sucked out of the economy and it doesn't go anywhere. It's like, that's what their biggest fear is if that's going to happen. And I think that's what they said was starting to happen. Like going negative interest rates wasn't working like they hoped it would.
Yeah,
over in like Japan and Europe and stuff like that.
But they're still doing it. And
they're still doing it. But, well, now because
the Fed chair was thinking about it back in March or something, that they were talking about what's negative interest rates going to look, because they keep trying to encourage more spending, more borrowing.
Yeah,
that's what they want. Even with home mortgages and all that, that's what they want. But we go back to the same thing when people say, oh, we don't have inflation. Well, home prices going as high as they're going, that's inflationary. It's causing people to not be able to buy houses, right? And then when you have a hurting job market, even though there's a lot of areas that are doing very well, but you still have a hurting job market. Payment increases are not, keeping up in a lot of areas. So it makes affordability an issue. It makes all these things an issue. It makes borrowing an issue. And then when you're hitting businesses, now what are they going to borrow for? So I don't know. I mean, negative interest rates, I've never heard anything good about it.
Yeah.
The countries that have gotten into it have not gotten out. They haven't been able to really back out of the negative interest rates. But it just kind of goes to show that after 2008, it made it very hard for the government to really manipulate the market because they bailed out the too big to fail, which made it impossible for them to fail. They never got interest rates high enough for this next crisis. They never got the Fed's balance sheet low enough. So now it's like, what does this new market look like? We don't know. Honestly, it could be.
It's experimental. It's been experimental since 2000.
Oh yeah.
It's like nobody ever knows. Well, in theory, this should work. Let's roll the dice and see what happens.
And I mean, Tommy in the chat has been putting up a lot of great information of what he's been doing with GIs and his tenants and everything. And it kind of goes to the same strategy that we used on this recent property and how we've operated our business is creative real estate. You as a real estate investor, as an investor business owner, you got to get creative.
Yep.
You have to be able to understand that it's more than just the basics. That's why you need to understand your business. And I think a lot of people don't take the time to do that.
Nope.
A lot of people just jump into it because it's, they're like, I'm an entrepreneur. I can put that on my Facebook now. And it's like, what the hell does that mean?
Yeah.
You got to still understand a business. You got to still run a business, understand taxes, understand the legal side of your business, understand all of these things to protect yourself, protect your future, protect your employees. You got to understand when an investment makes sense, when it doesn't. How can you make an investment make sense based on the current market conditions? So educating yourself and always being a student of business is what is required to run a business. And I think a lot of people are so lazy because they look at it but it's my passion. I love what I do. I understand you love what you do, but loving what you do and understanding business are vastly different things. You need to understand both. You need to not just love what you do. That's why they always talk about a starving artist, right? Artists, you could be an amazing artist, but if you suck at running a business, you're a starving artist.
Yep.
You understand? And that falls in every single scenario. And Tommy, I think, is an excellent example. We've had plenty of meetings with him where he's just blown our minds with the amount of stuff that, he knows and the creative things that he does. Well, we are definitely going to be having him on for tips from the pros starting in the new year. So, keep an eye out for that. But with all that being said, I mean, we are hitting that 9 o'clock stop time that we have because we have other things that we need to move forward. What?
So we got 5 minutes.
5 minutes. So with that being said, just going back to it, just if you're a business owner, it's not about loving what you do. You need to understand the business. You need to understand how is a business ran. You need to wear all the hats, even if you don't like to. I mean, when I first started, I taught myself how to code websites, how to build landing pages, how to do marketing, how to do accounting, how to do everything that's required in a business. Now, luckily, we have teams. We have people that we hire things out to. We are able to do that because we knew how to do it initially. We took the time to learn. And that's why now we're able to pivot as the market turns, as the market changes. That's why we're not scared when people always say, oh, the market's changing. What are you guys going to do? What we've always done. We're going to keep pivoting. We're going to keep adjusting. We are always looking at the market. That's why we do Coffee with the Johns, right? Because we're analyzing the articles. What are the trends that are coming in? All these things happening. What does that mean to the market? By understanding what's the real estate, what's the policies that are coming down the line. If Biden gets elected, okay, so he wants to raise taxes.
Yeah, the world's not going to end if Biden gets elected.
By all means.
Or Trump. It's just like the world's going to keep going. The world's not going to end. Like, the economy's still going to be moving forward. We're still going to be here tomorrow. And that's just like the whole point of this, and why, if you guys are watching right now, hit the like button, subscribe, share this so you catch it every week. And we stay on top of these topics because right now I talk a lot of politics. Well, this is no means to be a political show. It's just right now there's a lot of politics in the news because of everything going on. And if you are a business owner, politics does affect you. Those policies do affect you in some way, shape, or form, because it's, especially in real estate, if you're in the investment space, you need to understand how money works, because that money is going to the people that are driving investments and driving returns. If that money is slowing down and not being spent, or you're not paying attention to it, that is going to affect who you are, what you do, and how successful your business is.
Yeah. And we had Tommy on here that he said to speak on foreclosures. We did last week, Tommy, so you can check out that episode 8. We talked about the foreclosures and what we see coming. I don't know. I mean, I get what you're saying with foreclosures, but at least for what the data that we have for Texas and San Antonio, we don't feel that foreclosures are going to be really spiking anytime soon, unless these people really hold out to not go into forbearance. But if they take the forbearance route, I think foreclosures are going to be tough. But check out that episode. We went into it a lot more in detail. And what we are actually thinking of doing in future episodes is we want the first hour to be like this. We're going to be talking about the news and things, headlines and trends. And then the last half of the show, we're thinking of picking a topic every week and really diving deep into that topic. Right? It could be the topic of China, Bitcoin, foreclosures, even a specific strategy maybe. We can make it more into a training session. I don't know. I mean, we're up for opinions and ideas, so leave them in the comment, or for those of you that have our contact info, shoot us a message. Let us know what topics that you would like a deeper dive into. John and I stay very informed, very educated on all things economy and all things real estate. So, we can dive a little deeper and give you our 2 cents and kind of spark those conversations. So leave them in the comment. Let us know what topics would you like us to dive deeper on. And we're going to keep doing this. Remember, after the live, I'm going to go straight in and I'm going to update all the links. So you're going to have all the links to all the articles I spoke about, all the articles that we're reading, articles that we just didn't get to actually cover today, but they're going to be below. Check them out. Read them. Don't read just the headlines. The headlines are written by somebody else other than the person that writes the article, okay? Yep. Headlines are made for you to open the article. So don't read the headline. Read the article. Read the content. Learn, understand, become a student of what's going on. So with that being said, John, pleasure as always.
Always.
And we will catch you guys next week. So
see ya.
Thank you for watching and subscribe.